Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, and otherworldly and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, creepinitrealshow.com. Without further ado, welcome to this week's episode.
Hello and welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show. I am one of your hosts, Miss Moni, and welcome to what has become really one of the highlights of my week, which is discussing spooky shit and funny stuff with my friends Yardley and Christy. And to that end, I'm going to bring in my co-host. Yardley, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I definitely co-sign. It's always kind of fun to do this to close out the week, and I look forward to talking about what we've been watching and our main topic.
Yeah, so our main topic is going to be Dishy, mostly contemporary true crime stories. Some of them are unsolved, or mostly unsolved, but I feel like our team here will be judge, jury, and executioner. So, Christy, can you introduce yourself and tell me how you're going to find the husband's guilty in every single one of these stories?
They always are, and when they're not guilty, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like you're like shocked.
They don't make themselves look good in the moment either.
Yeah. I am Christy. I am 1/3 of your host today. I will introduce myself. We are trying to get back into into the swing of things with you guys. It's completely my fault, and everybody's been very patient, and I appreciate it. And I'm hoping that things are starting to kind of come down to just a dull roar instead of a full-on screaming craziness. And I'm really excited to have a fun topic to talk about today. I love dishing and gossip and true crime. Like, you just mothership calling me home for this one.
Checks all the boxes, doesn't it?
Heck yeah.
So, as we often do before we dive into our main topic, we're going to give you a quick overview of what we've been watching, and that's a good way to get some good recommendations or share your thoughts with us. So, Yardley, it looks like you have some fun things you've been checking out.
Yes, I was watching everybody knows I'm a big fan of Netflix. Like, all roads always lead back to Netflix, no matter what's on the other streaming services. So, a movie that's in the top 10 is called Stowaway, and it's about a 3-person crew on a 2-year mission to Mars that face an impossible choice when an unplanned passenger inadvertently jeopardizes the lives of everyone on board. It stars Toni Collette, Daniel Day Kim, Shamir Anderson, and Anna Kendrick. And I checked it out not too long ago. It was okay. It's definitely it's entertaining enough to definitely give a chance.
Oh, I remember that one. Okay, yeah. No spoilers, but I hated the ending, and so I think I blocked it out after that. I was yelling at the end. So, anyways, I've seen it as
absolutely. Well. I felt the same way, and it was almost like I turned my back, and then, when the ending happened, and I was like, wait a minute, how did this?
What the fuck just happened?
Yeah, I did, but I definitely would give it a chance. And another show that I was watching, which is also in the top 10, I think it's at number 1. I think it's remained there for, a few days. It's called Shadow and Bone, and it's a fantasy adventure. Which was written by an American author, Lee Bardugo. It's the first part of the Grisha trilogy. It was published by Macmillan back in 2012, and a basic summary is dark forces conspire against an orphan map maker, Alina Starkov, when she unleashes an extraordinary power that could change the fate of her war-torn world. I think the age bracket of of whom this might appeal to the most is probably, teenagers, but there's a decent amount of violence. I would say probably it's safe to watch if you're over 17, because even though a lot of the characters are probably, teenagers, the level of, it gets kind of violent, and it's, kind of mystical. You've got magic and you've got creatures and all of these different things, your hero's journey. But it's definitely worth checking out because it has been trending pretty high. And I think on the last show I mentioned that I planned on watching it. So I ended up binging it, and I think it's solid. I'd probably give the first 6 episodes, which I think it's only 6. It might be 8, but I give it a 7 out of 10. You don't think
they're going to have any more? Like, that's probably it, the whole series?
Oh, no, it's totally. I mean, the way that it ended, it's totally, yeah, they're setting up a season 2. And granted, you know, when you watch this, you just have to ride the wave because, you know, obviously there's a lot of stuff that you can pick apart, but
suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
yeah. Well, that's what fantasy's for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess so. Although I might check it out because that's the kind of thing I'm into. However, deep cut. This is really for library people, but fuck Macmillan. And it's from a book series published by Macmillan. Macmillan blamed libraries for not making enough profit last year, right before the pandemic, and made a big stink about how us letting people borrow things for free when we're paying Macmillan through the nose to get access was undercutting their profits. And then as soon as the pandemic hit and, you know, digital sales were the only thing they really had, they sure backed the fuck off of that. And if I'm not mistaken, they're also having people that are abhorrent sign real lucrative book deals through them. So fuck Macmillan. But if the show's good, I might still check it out. Hopefully, Netflix is the one making the money and not as much Macmillan, although I'm sure they got their cut. So anyway, deep cut. But thank you for the recommendation because I still might check it out on a day when there's not much going on.
Yeah, I mean, check it out. I think probably the people who are definitely getting, you know, a decent amount of the back. Obviously, Netflix is going to get their cut of things, but I think that the Lee Bardugo, you know, hopefully she got taken care of. I just don't know. I mean, I know that Macmillan is a publisher, but I don't necessarily know how much Netflix has to mess with them. That's kind of like a blurb to where the book came from, as opposed to. You know, I just hope that like they sold an exclusive deal and now they can't make any more money off of it is what I hope. But anyway. Netflix is good at taking people's money and buying up everything. So yeah, hopefully.
Well, in that case, support the series, everybody. So Christy, you've been reading a book. Speaking of books.
Yeah, so I have not turned a TV on in weeks. Everybody knows, because I've talked about it on the show endlessly, that I'm in the middle of remodeling a house to put on the vacation rental market. On top of that, I'm also working a full-time job plus doing some other side things to make more money so I don't go into debt remodeling the house. I'm insane right now. And my job, my full-time job, has started kicking up the travel again. So we hadn't been traveling due to the pandemic. Well, we're doing that now. So I've been a little nuts. So, I decided to read a book because I just needed some serenity. Like I need to kind of like reading to me is like an escape way more than TV. So I decided to start looking for a series to read, and I was on TikTok and somebody recommended the Demon Muse series. She talked about what it was about, and I'm like, well, that sounds like something I could get down with. It's like basically everything that we know about heaven and earth is not right. It's like, but this is a series, it's just a story. Actually, hell are just demons that are like actually just regular ass people in another dimension. Heaven is full of angels and they're like total big assholes. And then there's a couple of worlds in between. There's like 5 dimensions, and it's basically this girl accidentally ends up finding out that she's like a muse and can help other dimensions. And it's interesting and it's really good. But what the girl didn't elaborate on, which, she said it was a romance novel / sci-fi, like fantasy series. Okay, romance. I get down with some romance. That's awesome. This is not romance. This is like porn.
Oh.
I'm like on
modern
the plane
romance, y'all.
Reading
just bang it out.
Not just modern romance. Like we're talking anything and everything you could possibly think of is going on in these books. There's demons having sex with humans, humans that are demons having sex with humans, groups of humans having sex, tail sex, wing sex, like everything that you could possibly think of. And I'm like, she didn't quite elaborate on this. Like, okay, romance is romance, but I'm fine with it. And there's a lot of gay sex, which doesn't bother me at all. It's sex. it just caught me off guard because I've read romance novels. I've just never read like rated X romance novels, I guess. I was way like still going into like the Judith McNaught phase of romance back in the 80s and 90s. So it's an interesting story. She gets a little monotonous at times because this chick has a problem with group sex, clearly.
Okay.
And, but there's a lot of conversation about that all the time. I'm only on book 3. I don't know. There's like 4 or 5 books. So it's a good story, but there's a lot of back and forth about why it's just okay and turn your brain off about group sex, which I'm fine with. I mean, if you want to have group sex, have group sex.
Yeah.
And which they talk about makes sense, but it's just repeatedly like going through because she's got her hang-ups. And
Okay.
cool. So anyway, I recommend it because the story is very original and it does give a really good insight on people just being people. Demons are just demons and, you know, fairies are just fairies. And it's all, everything, all the parts are the same. It's a good euphemism for racism, sexism, like the whole shebang. Like she's hitting some good stuff, and she's doing it in a really cool way. So I recommend it but trigger warning, there's a lot of stuff that tail sex, which I didn't know was a thing. It is apparently a thing, in this book. So anyway, I recommend it if you're prepared for really explicit sex because the story's good. So that's why I had to throw that out there. I haven't read or I haven't watched anything, so I can't recommend that. It's really all I've been doing. It will catch you off guard. That's all I'm going to say. So if you're comfortable with really outrageous sex stuff with a good story, by all means, check this one out. And it's called the Demon Muse series.
Demon Muse. All right. Or the orgy stories, which actually my friends, my little group of local friends are joking that, speaking of group sex, post pandemic, we're all vaccinated and we're like, so we're like, everybody else like barbecues, baby showers, weddings. And we're like, when's the orgy? So anyway,
and this is perfect thing because demons can't die. So you don't have to worry about, infecting anybody. So go find yourself some demons and have some group sex.
Great. Yes, maybe ? And on that note, actually, speaking of like vulnerable kind of populations, I watched a movie on Shudder. It's not out yet. It's coming out in a week or two, so maybe by the time this drops. But it is kind of embargoed, so I can't talk too much about it. But it is called The Retreat, and it is women written, directed, and acted, and it's a little bit predictable, but it's still a good time. And I would like to say straight up that there's no rape in it. And I'm only saying that because a lot of the situations would lend themselves to that. And I spent the whole movie going like, oh, please no rape here. Please no rape here. So there is no rape in the movie, The Retreat. I can't say much else about it, but I did enjoy it. It's a nice watch on Shudder. If you're into horror films, which obviously if you're here, you probably are. So check it out when it becomes available, I think in mid-May. And then I've also been watching The Handmaid's Tale. I think I've watched 3 episodes so far. I actually woke up super early this morning as I wanted to do, so I just watched an episode. And if y'all don't think that that's horror, you have no soul because holy shit, like this third episode that I just watched right now was super horrific. So Hulu's still bringing the pain with The Handmaid's Tale for better or worse. The story is still good and it's still interesting and it's hard to watch in a good way, ? So there's that. And then the other thing that I watched before this show was Vanished in New Canaan, an ID mystery. So obviously ID being Discovery, the ID channel. This one, I don't really understand how this Discovery Plus works because I have it and I still had to pay $2 to watch this one. And I wanted to watch it for research for this show, but it's about the disappearance. It's true crime of Jennifer Doulos. And we will talk about that actually a little bit later in the episode. It is a severely angry-making, frustrating, sad, and just really disheartening case. But we will talk about it in just a few minutes. So without further ado, I would like to start talking about some of these true crime stories that I put together for the show. and the first one being a Scream-inspired murder. So Yardley, if you'll kick us off.
All right, Cassie Jo Stoddard, the Scream-inspired murderer. On the night of September 22nd, 2006, Cassie was house-sitting for her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, of Whispering Cliffs Drive in northeast Bannock County. The Contreras family were out of town and had hired Cassie to come take care of their 3 cats and 2 dogs for the weekend. Cassie was visited later that evening by her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, who arrived around 6 p.m. Later, classmates Brian Draper and Tori Adamsick, who were both 16 years old at the time, came over to the house to hang out. Cassie gave the friends a tour of the house, including the basement. The 4 teens went into the living room to watch the film Kill Bill Volume 2, but Tori and Brian ended up leaving before the film ended, saying they wanted to watch a movie at their local movie theater instead. Cassie and Matt stayed behind. Cassie was unaware that before the boys left, Brian unlocked the basement door so he and Tori could re-enter the house undetected. Sometime after leaving the house on Whispering Cliffs, Brian and Tori returned to the neighborhood, parked down the street, got out of the car, and put on costumes consisting of dark clothing, gloves, and white masks. They quietly entered the house through the basement door while Matt and Cassie were watching TV in the living room. They intentionally made some loud noises in an attempt to lure Matt and Cassie downstairs so they could scare them. Next, they found the circuit breaker and turned off the power in the house, hoping the pair would come downstairs to check the breaker. When Matt and Cassie did not come downstairs, the boys turned some of the lights on.
So real quick, Christy, before you dive in, I just you're going to get into the meat of these boys terrorized this girl before they killed her. And it's very annoying. Murdering is bad enough, but just kind of, listeners, put yourself in the mindset of you're a teenager watching this house and the lights just all went out. It's straight out of a horror movie, which was the point, to terrorize their victims. So go ahead.
Cassie became uneasy after the temporary power outage, and Matt noticed that one of the Contreras dogs kept staring down the basement stairs, periodically barking or growling. Seeing that Cassie felt scared, Matt called his mother to ask if he could stay the night at the house with her to ease her mind, but she denied his request. Instead, she offered to let Cassie come home with Matt and stay at their house for the night, and she would bring Cassie back to Whispering Cliffs' house in the morning. However, Cassie felt it was her responsibility to stay at the house as she was hired to do and care for the animals, and declined the offer from Matt's mother. At approximately 10:30 p.m., Matt's mother picked him up, leaving Cassie at the house alone. Matt called Tori's cell phone to see where Tori and Brian were, possibly to meet up with them later. Matt said he could barely hear Tori, who was whispering on the phone, and Matt assumed the boys were in a movie theater. From the basement, Brian and Tori heard Matt leave. The teens turned the lights out again at the circuit breaker in the basement and waited, hoping Cassie would come downstairs to turn the lights back on, but she did not. Eventually, the boys went upstairs. Brian was armed with a dagger-type weapon, and Tori had a hunting-style knife. Brian opened and slammed a closet door at the top of the stairs to scare Cassie, who was lying on the couch in the living room. The boys then brutally attacked her, stabbing Cassie approximately 30 times. 12 wounds were potentially fatal. What the fuck?
Yeah, and imagine also that Matt's mom and Matt and everybody's decision making as far as as a mother, of course you don't want your teenage son to spend the night at, with his girlfriend in a stranger's house. But the thought that poor Cassie was so responsible as a teenager that she said, no, it's my responsibility to stay here and be the caretaker of the house for the night. And that ended up getting her killed.
Jesus.
So, yeah. The murder weapons were purchased at a pawn shop with the help of 18-year-old Joe Lucero. Throughout the investigation of the murder, police found that Brian and Tori had recorded their plan to murder Cassie in advance on videotape while they were at school. The video footage was shown at their trial. And there's a whole lot more to this, but in the interest of getting kind of to it, at the trial, the prosecution revealed that Draper had said he was inspired by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, which you see a lot. There's apparently a bunch of TikTok TikTok. I know there's been stuff on the internet, but there's a bunch of TikTok channels dedicated to basically thinking that Dylan and Eric Harris from the Columbine murders were some kind of heroes to be followed. So, of course, they were the Columbine school massacre killers. Later, they said they were inspired by the Scream horror movie film franchise. And on April 17th, 2007, Draper was found guilty, and Adam Kick's trial started May 31st, 2007, and he was convicted on June 8th. By August 21st, based on being convicted of first-degree murder, each received a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole, and 30 years to life for being convicted of conspiracy to commit murder. So again, on top of killing Cassie, of course, the fact that they had evidence of the conspiracy to do so. Any thoughts on this case, you guys?
It's just messed up. Like, I'm just like,
yeah.
It's just, wow. Yeah,
no wonder why. Oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just saying, it seems like pretty much damn near every episode we're talking about how messed up, saying something is, but you're right. I mean, that was just that was a little too extra. I don't know. It's just sad because I know that everybody is going to second guess everything leading up to that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's terrible.
And I kind of wonder why Cassie, I wonder if she was the target all along for whatever crazy reasons these two little shits had, or if it was just they wanted to kill someone and then they had the opportunity with her house sitting. I don't know. I didn't look into that part, but it does make you wonder if she was a target, this poor young lady, or if that was just, kind of like the strangers because you were home,
Right. I just literally cannot in my entire being imagine being in high school planning a murder. What has to go through your head? I loved horror movies. Yeah, I loved horror movies. Shit, we were listening to headbanging, freaking crazy ass Anthrax rock. Dabbled in what we thought was witchcraft. Tarot and Ouija boards but never did it ever occur to me to harm somebody or decide I want to kill somebody. I just don't understand how you could be inspired by murders. And then also, it's mind blowing to me. You always
have to be totally disconnected, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah. You always think somebody's murdered somebody because they've gone through something through their whole life that's just caused them to snap or whatever. But like you said, I think people sometimes are just born with absolutely no ability to
terrorize her the way they did. We want to create fear before we stab her a million times,
And two of them to find each other, and be friends. And that, I just, I always want to know, I think I missed my opportunity to be be a profiler or a psychologist about this shit. But, what do they think now? They're in prison. What do they feel like? I can't figure out how all that happens.
You'll often, and I don't know if it's true in this case, but you'll often get one that was I was going along with what my friend said and I was young and stupid and I regret it. And then, I get the other one that's I'm completely batshit crazy and, this is what I wanted to do. That seems to happen a lot where they one is a lost soul who finds the other one who's already super far gone,
Right. Right.
But 30, what was it, 30 times? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't, you can't, you're kind of out of the boat on the, I just, you know what I'm saying? I went along with it because that's, anyway.
Yeah, it's different than doing drugs or stealing some beer from 7-Eleven. It's I just planned a murder because I felt but I can look, kids are just so freaking naive. They cannot in any way sometimes grasp what's really happening, what's really going on. Are you really doing this? I did shit, nothing like that. I look back on and I'm just how am I still alive today? I really don't know, but never, ever could somebody have talked me into murdering somebody.
Yeah, no. And, I've spent time studying the brains of children and teens and their brains are not fully formed and their neurons are literally creating new pathways to learn new things every day. And that's why even at 18, you're not done fully being formed. So even though we've said like 18 is an adult, that's not really the case in terms of their brains. But yeah, you still hopefully grow up in a household where you have right from wrong. And honestly, I've been watching this account that you learn a lot about animals, and there's a lot of animals that have the ability to have empathy. And so the fact that we are human animals and you can't feel another human animal's terror and be like, hey, maybe I shouldn't stab him 30 times is kind of like beyond, you know?
Right. Everybody's here, Americans shitting on other cultures because there's like huge generations living together under one roof, and then B, they allow their kids to live with them longer. You know, we think, 18, get the fuck out of my house. But I don't think I understand it. Like, I would say 25 I wouldn't want my kid to be completely self-sufficient on me, but if they needed to live with me while they take care and like create a life for themselves, I don't see what's wrong with that. And I also can't imagine thinking at 18, my kid's 18 right now, and she's not an adult. You know, she's so naive and so like, I couldn't just be like, open up my door and be like, bye.
Yeah.
Anyway,
can you imagine back in the day, she would have had like babies by now and been like responsible for all this craziness. So speaking of young people that met bad ends, this case is, I'm saying quote unquote unsolved because I'm pretty sure we're going to decide who we think did it. But this is a very contemporary case. This just started happening in January of this year. So Yardley, take us in.
All right. Who killed Alexis Sharkey? Alexis Sharkey was a 26-year-old beauty and lifestyle enthusiast who gave her job description as mentor, made a name for herself amid a sea of personalities angling for their own slice of social media pie with pure hustle, and that included posting regularly to her Instagram story. She is attached to her phone. Tanya Ricardo, a close friend who said she spent Thanksgiving with Alexis. She's a social media queen. She is an influencer. She works from her phone. So when 12 hours went by after Tanya last talked and her friend hadn't posted anything new, and she wasn't responding to texts or calls, loved ones started to worry. Tanya went to the apartment Alexis shared with her husband, Tom Sharkey, 49, and knocked on the door. No one answered, after which Tanya called the police.
So this was a process. Oh, sorry, you were going to say something about it, Christy?
I was just going to ask what year this was. So
this was this year. Yeah.
Oh, this year.
2001. Okay. Yeah. So this is still going on. And for a while, Tom Sharkey's Facebook page was available, and you could actually see the very strange ways that he was handling the aftermath of this when she was still missing. There's a lot more to this case than is in here, but Tom Sharkey, as you saw, Alexis was 26, Tom is 49, and he's a big, giant, like muscle-bound dude, and she was, a tiny little cutie influencer girl, and they traveled the world. They had a really whirlwind romance. They got married very soon, and you'll see through this, but about 6 months or so before she disappeared, she had all kinds of social media postings with him, costume, things that they had gone to for Halloween, and traveling with him and talking about how much she loves this man. And she had kind of done that thing that a lot of celebrities do when there's trouble in paradise, which is stop posting anything with that person, traveling with her girlfriend's posts. So go ahead and continue the story, Christy.
So as a person that literally does social media for a living, this is so, okay. So if you over post about your relationship and everything's great and fun and perfect, that's always a warning sign. There's always like a happy medium in there, And then when you and then sure enough, you always, because it comes to a crescendo and then y'all break up or whatever's going on and it's nothing. So I see that pattern all the freaking time on social media, and I think I'm probably even guilty of it myself at some point, but all right. Meanwhile, earlier that morning, a city sanitation worker driving near Houston's North Elridge Parkway had spotted what turned out to be Alexis's naked body lying in some bushes by the side of the road about 3 miles from her home. Can we just stop and say something really quick?
Sure.
what in the world do these people that discover dead bodies, like, how, like, what does that do to you?
Yeah.
I cannot imagine doing my job and finding coming across a naked body. Like, police officers sign up for that. They know when they go on a call, it could get ugly, ambulance, firemen. Yes. But just doing your job and coming across a naked a dead person, dead person. I can't imagine what that does to you.
Yeah.
I always think about that all the time when I'm watching these shows or reading these stories. So he said he thought he'd seen a body or a mannequin, Supervisor John Richardson told the news, explaining that one of his employees saw her from his truck on Saturday morning and called him. He wasn't too sure. He wasn't going to stop because he was scared. So he asked me to come out there and check it out. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just think about that and it just makes me sick. So they went to look together. When we were driving, we could see the feet. Richardson continued. We got out and looked, and there it was. She was lying there deceased, no clothes on. I just got on the phone and I called 911. It's an image, he said, that's been playing back in my head every day. Yep, there it is. Like, I can't even fucking imagine.
Yeah.
The investigation into Alexis's death remained active and ongoing as they awaited results from the medical examiner to determine their next course of action. And now they have the results. Alexis was strangled, and the case is now officially a homicide. There were no visible wounds on her body when she was found. Wow.
And I add that part. Yeah, I just added a picture.
Wow.
Yeah, he's huge. He's enormous.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah, she was so beautiful. And the fact that there was no visible wounds on her body is also obviously a big clue that somebody that she knew well and trusted to get close to her did this to her. So, I wonder who you know well and trust besides your poor loving husband. So, unnamed pals told Houston's ABC 13 that Alexis confided in them during a weekend getaway to Marfa, Texas in November that she feared for her life. She confided in me that night that she's petrified, one friend said. The girl was scared for her life. Alexis had recently stopped posting pictures of herself with her husband, Tom Sharkey. Tom, who informed his mother-in-law that Alexis was missing on Saturday, wrote on Facebook after his wife's body was found, "My world, my everything. I am so lost right now. My one and only." I actually went over and read those straight off of his Facebook page. His reactions, I'm not saying there's any right way to handle your wife being found like that, but his reactions while she was missing were fucking strange and didn't seem scared enough, and the story changed, and then he stopped talking, of course. So he insisted that he and Alexis had been happily married and were not getting a divorce. Rather, he said, they had enjoyed a Thanksgiving meal together on the morning of Thursday, November 26th. And also, granted, the pandemic was a factor, but she had started to withdraw from her friends a little bit. She was still talking to them on their group text messages, but she had started to withdraw from seeing her friends a little bit. And she definitely had withdrawn since she had married Tom from seeing her own family, which is always a sign, well, not always, which is often a sign that someone is controlling you and isolating you for no good reasons. So he says, it's horrible. People are talking lots of crap, he told the news in a phone interview on December 1st. I'm getting death threats and stuff. So she's found naked and hurt, dead on the side of the road. Obviously someone roughed her up, and he's saying how horrible it is that people are talking lots of crap on him and that he's getting death threats. Yeah.
That's when shit's not right. When they start only thinking about themselves, like, I'm so sorry, first of all, I can't imagine what her family's going through. I'm devastated. This is horrible. Nothing about that. Just about what's happening to poor Steve. Yeah.
So, moreover, Tom said looks can be deceiving, and Alexis's upbeat social media presence did not tell the whole story. She wasn't happy. She was stressed, he said. There's always other sides to everything. I was the one holding her, cuddling her, and building her back up. So she needed me. She was weak without me. I'm sure he told her that while she was alive. I don't need to set the record straight. I'll let this play out the way it is. I know what happened. I know what my life was with my wife. He indicated that going into further detail, the last time he saw her was at home, and he told her she shouldn't drive. She understood me. I understood her. We didn't fight when she left, because people just walk out of their house at 3 a.m. He told the news, I just told her she couldn't drive under the influence and she left anyhow. This is where we're at. Wherever Alexis went afterward, she did not take her car. So him telling her she couldn't drive under the influence, there was rumors that someone was going to come pick her up and that she went walking. There was rumors that someone randomly killed her when she went out walking at 3 a.m. Sketch as fuck. But in the meantime, he said he's fully cooperating with the Houston Police Department, and they were going through all of his wife's calls, emails, and texts. He was sure that the police were, quote, going to find everyone that was involved. Going to find everyone that was involved? You think she was gang murdered when she didn't have any signs of struggle on her? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
So what's the up? I mean, this is it?
That's it so far. Yeah. I've true crime, enthusiasts have dug into the case. They've all reached out to Tom on social media. He says really weird shit back, weird dude, weird case, although also seemingly pretty clear-cut case. But it's only been a couple months, and that investigations take time. I hope that they arrest this bastard. That's just my 2 cents on the whole thing.
Well, I can tell you right now, looking at this picture, that this guy is so out of his league with her that he probably is just if I can't have her, nobody
She was 26. He had a wife before.
He looks like a complete dumb. I mean, he looks ridiculous. He doesn't even look like a good big guy. He's got this weird fucking beard. He's bald. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't see anything. I know people fall in love and people have their personalities, and then you look at her, and I can just imagine the insecurity. You really need to understand, this girl is drop dead gorgeous. I mean, she looks like a Giselle model. I'm not kidding. Yes. And I can't imagine the insecurity that he felt dealing with somebody that, like that, waiting for her to leave him for somebody better. And just how that probably accumulated to a point where he did something about it. It happens. So I'm not saying he's guilty, but damn, the way he's behaving, give me a break. Oh, wow. I just saw this next picture of them on the beach.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, come on. Give me a break.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
That's that case.
He had his day, son. He wasn't going to let anybody else have it. I'll tell you that right now.
No, that was a piece that he wasn't giving up for sure.
No.
Poor woman and her friends and family, though.
She's probably an amazing person that had a lot to give life, and then this fucking asshole decides that, if he can't have her, nobody should.
And we should add allegedly, because the case is still ongoing and we don't want to get sued. So the next one, if you think that's bad, this next one I would argue is even more sad. And this was the one that I watched the Discovery ID series on. So Yardley, if you'll take us into this one.
All right, the disappearance of Jennifer Doulos. Fotis Doulos started emailing Jennifer Farber, whom he had met in college while he was still with his first wife. They were married 1 month after his divorce was finalized in August of 2004 and moved to Farmington, Connecticut, where they had 5 children together. After the gradual breakdown of a marriage in which Jennifer claimed Fotis was living an increasingly independent life, she filed for divorce on June 20th, 2017 at Superior Court in Stamford. In the same month, she started renting a house in New Canaan and 70 miles southwest of Farmington and moved there with her 5 children. In her divorce documents, Jennifer wrote, "I know that filing for divorce and filing this motion will enrage him. I know he will retaliate by trying to harm me in some way." She also stated she believed he was having an affair with a colleague, Michelle Triconis, a native of Venezuela. Jennifer also alleged that Fotis had threatened to kidnap their children if she did not agree to his terms in the divorce settlement, and that he had brought a gun earlier that year. Fotis denied making threats and claimed that he bought the gun legally for home security. Both parents filed numerous motions claiming that the other was disparaging them.
So let me unpack this a little bit real quick, Christy, before you jump in.
Mm-hmm.
So this woman was younger than Jennifer Farber was younger than Fotis. Fotis was a Greek immigrant. He was born in Greece and raised in Turkey, and he was married to someone else, as Yardley mentioned. And before his divorce was even finalized, he was emailing this younger Jennifer woman who he met in school. And he was rich. He was a wealthy man, and he basically whirlwind romanced her, married her, and took her off to live in this like multi-million-dollar gorgeous house. You can see it on the Discovery documentary. But they had 5 kids together pretty quickly, because by the time she disappeared, the kids were all between the ages of 8 and 13. So he just like kept. But when she says that they were living a separate life by the end of it, he full on, this Michelle woman that he brought home, she looked exactly like his wife, but less hot. Like, he had a type, this brunette white lady. He brought her home with her 10-year-old daughter and decided that she was going to live in their house in Connecticut with his other 5 children and Jennifer was supposed to tolerate this. So of course Jennifer files for divorce, and it got really, really ugly. I don't think I mentioned this in the rest of it, so I do want to mention also, during the divorce proceedings, Jennifer's father passed away. And apparently, on the surface, this is almost always the case with these wealthy murder mysteries, where Fotis was running a corporation and he was in business with his father-in-law, Jennifer's father. And Jennifer's father passed away, and it turned out Fotis had borrowed $2.5 million from his father-in-law, and he had been repaying the loan. And when the father-in-law passed away, Fotis just stopped paying on the loan. So,
right.
His mother-in-law, or about to be former mother-in-law, started suing him. So that was part of the pressure that he was under, was he was trying to make a new life with his girlfriend. His wife and 5 kids were in the way, and his wife's mother was trying to get him to pay on loans that he owed to her. So this was an ugly, ugly, ugly situation. So go ahead.
Despite Jennifer's requesting an emergency order of custody, the couple were given temporary joint custody of their children until the end of the divorce proceedings. When Jennifer again requested an emergency order of custody in early 2018, the judge found that Fotis had broken numerous court orders. In March 2018, Jennifer was awarded sole physical custody of the children, while both parents were to share joint legal custody. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Fotis was granted supervised visitation and monitored phone calls. Jennifer, you know what? I think I've seen a true crime story on this one.
It's a newer crime.
Jennifer was last seen around 8 a.m. on May 24th, 2019, when she dropped her children off at New Canaan Country School. Then at 8:05 a.m. on a neighbor's security camera turning home. Yep. Was she driving a black SUV?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've seen that. Yep. At the time Jennifer went missing, she and her husband were estranged and still engaged in a tumultuous divorce. They were also involved in the ongoing contentious child custody proceedings. Police searched numerous properties and around Farmington in Fairfield County and near Fotis' home without success. Fotis believed to have been lying in wait for his estranged wife to return home and killed her in the garage when he returned home from dropping their kids off at school. Yep, I have heard about this one.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Oh, it's so maddening.
It's a really bad story.
Comes to you and says she fears for her life.
Uh-huh.
And then you force them to, I don't understand how you don't protect people like that.
I know. And so also not noted in here, but it was in the thing that I watched. Though they have not found her body, still to this day have not found her body. When they say that they think that he killed her in the garage, or that she was killed in the garage, it's because her blood was found in the garage, and it was actually found to be too much blood, and it was definitely hers, to have survived the attack. So she also put up a hell of a fight. You know, this is a woman that had 5 kids to get back to, and they found so much of her blood. And then also, I don't think I mentioned this either, but hunters came across on the property a 6-foot hole in the ground. Gee, what do you need to dig a 6-foot hole for, guys? And it had
a tree.
Yeah, really
the whole
long,
tree.
a rectangular tree was going to be planted. It had limestone bags in the hole, but there was no body in the hole. So
why did they? Okay, so what happened? I remember that. Now, why did they? So he didn't bury her there.
Well, it's that whole no body, no crime. Right. You can get them potentially on conspiracy, but you can't get them on murder, or it's real hard to get on murder, especially when you're rich and have really good lawyers, if there's no body. So I'm assuming they either were going to put her there or had put her there and moved her when they knew that they were going to be searching that area. Because basically, Fotis and his girlfriend Michelle were both arrested but couldn't be held because there wasn't enough evidence, quote unquote, and they had really great lawyers. And they were still together, the girlfriend and Fotis at this point. And so they were let go. So they had opportunities to continue hiding evidence and moving bodies and doing what they needed to do. And there's a third guy involved who is also in trouble. Kent Douglas Mahaney was a lawyer who also helped them out. So, So on January 7th, 2020, Fotis was arrested at his home by the Connecticut State Police and charged with capital murder, and kidnapping in relation to his disappearance. So again, this was the second time, though, that he had been arrested for it. His then-girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, was also arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Fotis's friend and former attorney, Kent Douglas Mahaney, was also detained on January 7th. This is all January of 2020, and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. All of this triggered Mahaney to get divorced from his wife. And so this is the lawyer whose wife claimed that she had been raping him throughout their marriage, and that
wait. She had been raping him.
No. His wife, the lawyer who was helping this murderer, this alleged murderer, was also raping his own wife, and apparently So apparently because the lawyer was friends with this alleged murderer, the wife came to know too much through their conversations. And so she had to go on the run from her attorney husband because basically her fear was that Fotis, her own husband, and this guy's girlfriend were going to kill her next because she knew too much. So it's just what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive, for sure. So, lawyer's wife goes on the run and starts getting a divorce. So despite all of these arrests, Jennifer's body is yet to be found. So now we cut to Fotis is out on bail, and he has a new girlfriend. He's broken up with this Michelle chick, but this Michelle chick is still in trouble. Conspiracy. So
she's gonna talk, right?
She goes on the record, this Michelle chick, and says, while I shouldn't have trusted my now ex-boyfriend, I had nothing to do with anything, and I know nothing. So this bitch isn't talking. So meanwhile, Fotis has himself a new girl, and she's gonna accompany him to his hearing on January 28th, 2020. And he's been out on bond, on $4 million bond, because rich people can post bond. So he's back at home, living comfortably, and going to appear at this hearing. And he tells his girlfriend, go on without me, I'll be there. So she goes to the hearing, and he fails to appear. So this prompts the police to come to his home, and they find that this fucking asshole has poisoned himself with carbon monoxide and is in a vegetative state, basically, in his SUV. So he also left a letter that said, I refuse to spend one more minute in prison for a crime that I know nothing about. That's how he decided to leave the world.
Oh, I remember this story. Yeah. What a piece of fucking garbage. Oh my God. And he would rather die than say
didn't tell anybody what happened to the mother of his 5 children, who are between the ages of 13.
And then left his children without any parents.
So he left his children, and now he's in a vegetative state. He didn't 100% die. So the last time that his children ever saw him, through the whole like trials of their dad being arrested for the murder or the disappearance of their mother, they never got to see him. The only time they got to see him was when he was hooked up to all these monitors having tried to commit suicide.
Wow.
And they went to the hospital, said goodbye to their dad, and he was taken off life support and he died. And that's what the kids get, is no mom and no way to bury their mom or have any closure to that. And now no father.
I hope that her parents are raising them and not his.
Yeah, they're with family. But I don't know, obviously, you know, between the ages of 8 and 13, they're not old enough to talk for themselves, which they shouldn't have to. And I refuse to spend, his note was, I refuse to spend even an hour more in jail for something I had nothing to do with. And so the documentary ends too with a plea to this Michelle bitch, his ex-girlfriend, that she knows something. His ex-lawyer who's doing time for conspiracy knows something. Y'all should really do the right thing and speak up. And honestly, at this point, now that he's dead, you could probably get some sweet deal where you say, he did 100% of it. I was afraid of him. He said he was going to kill me if I said anything. Right. But now that he's dead, I will say she's buried here. You know what I mean? Like, you could get a sweet ass deal that way. And she still has not. And so these children and these families still have no closure.
Wow. We just keep getting lighter and lighter. Goes on here. But,
she did warn us. She did warn us. Like, you think that was fucked up? Let me tell you about another one. And I grabbed my tea and I said, let's go.
Yep. So that's that one. This next one is interesting to me because I spent last year living in Chula Vista. Which is way south San Diego County, and this happened in Chula Vista, and it's an ongoing case. So don't expect any closure from these open mysteries, y'all, but check this one out.
Okay, so where is Maya Millet? An attorney working with the family of a missing Chula Vista mother is speaking out about a walkthrough he conducted of Maya Millet's house. That is correct, right, Millet?
Mm-hmm.
Moni? Okay.
I think.
Maya has been missing for nearly 3 months, and her family confirmed that early on. They asked attorney Billy Little Jr. to help find her.
Sorry. Like a children's book's name.
Billy
Little Jr. Yeah.
Billy Little Jr. shucking those peas under the Christmas tree.
Right?
See, but anyway, Little said he knocked on the door at the Millet home in Chula Vista 4 days after Maya went missing. Her husband, Larry Millet, opened the door and let him in after Little showed him his identification, the attorney said. The mother of 3 reportedly had argued with her husband on Thursday, January 7th. She spoke with friends in a video call around 5:30 p.m., and that was the last time anyone has heard from her. A neighbor security camera caught 8 loud banging noises coming from the Millet family home that night.
Is this one from, this is 2020?
This is 2021. This is happening now, and her family has been really pushing the Chula Vista Police Department to find her and to close this case. And so far, there's no great leads, but I feel like, Christy, when you read the part that you're about to read, that there's some good leads here.
Yeah. Inside the garage, Little said he discovered a freezer was missing. Did he now? I called Chula Vista Police and I said, hey, there's a freezer missing from the garage, said Little. Then there was no action. I mean, that's a really dedicated attorney.
Yes, he's a retired attorney that the family paid to start looking into things. And it sounds like he's been a real pain in the ass for the police. And,
he's doing their job.
Yeah. Some of it is a little bit of nosiness, but honestly, you know that the longer that a trail goes cold, the less likely they are to find this woman. So he's just trying to find this woman for the family.
I mean, that's why I was like, wow, I mean, he's really dedicated. Like, he knows there's a freezer missing in the garage. Like, I don't know if I didn't live in a home that I would know if there was a freezer in the garage, but I guess you could see like the outline or something.
Sure.
But anyway, okay. So then there was no action. So I found the freezer myself. I went over and found it from one of Larry's relatives. Wow, that guy does not fucking stop. I mean, I would like for Billy Little Jr. to come and be my murderer. If I ever go missing, can somebody release Billy Little Jr.? It should have like a series of true crime series for kids called Billy Little Jr. Okay, moving on. The relative claimed he had planned on picking up the freezer for some time, according to Little. The attorney said he snapped a photo of the freezer in the relative's home. Wow.
Yeah.
That guy's not fucking around. For months, Little said he has been collecting evidence in the case, including hundreds of text messages sent in 2020 by Maya's husband to friends and family. He started by complaining to family members. He started by accusing his wife, May, of having an affair with absolutely no evidence there was an affair going on, Little said. Oh, man.
So Maya's real name is May. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, this guy started going off the rails. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Maya's real name is May, and her husband is Larry, who we've been talking about. But, you know, I do think it's kind of like the Tom Sharkey thing. What we were talking about is he sees her kind of, not to the same extent, but like living a life outside of just him being the end all be all. And that starts to drive some of these motherfuckers a little bit nuts. Mm-hmm. So other messages contain biblical quotes about adulterous women, like one from June 28th that read in part, "Her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave." Like, can you imagine your husband sending you messages like that? Like, "Oh, it's so romantic, honey. Thanks." You know, cool. The text messages that Larry sent numbered sometimes in the hundreds per day, says Little. Oh. It started ramping up as 2020 went on, and May started moving more and more towards divorce. He became more and more desperate, the attorney said. The day that Maya scheduled an appointment with a divorce attorney, Little said, is the last day that anybody saw her. What a fucking coincidence, right? She filled out an intake form on the Thursday that she went missing. The appointment was scheduled for the next Tuesday, but she never made it to that appointment. And I will say, too, that anyone who might know anything about this disappearance to please call the Chula Vista Police Department. They do have the hotline set up for you to call if you know anything. So anybody in the San Diego area that might have seen or heard anything. Like Yardley mentioned, the camera from a neighbor's, like ring camera basically, caught 8 loud gunshot-like bangs coming from inside her house on the day that she disappeared. So it's an open story, but she was afraid of her husband and moving away from that direction, and now she's missing. So that's the end of that.
And can I add a little extra thing about Billy Little?
Yeah.
He's cute. He's older. I think. Is that him? I can't tell. I'm looking it up. I can't tell if that's him. He's a legal consultant for the Cold Case Foundation.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. Anyway, just curious about this guy. Because, I mean, I want to hire him if I die. Can I just put that in my will? Because that guy, stop. Yep, that's him.
Avenge me. Oh, yeah, he is cute.
Oh, and she's beautiful. Oh, yeah. Man.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Another one of those young, cute wives that, didn't want to have a lot to do with this weirdo. So, anyway.
That's right. Well, you're going to put him, you're going to put his information on your phone under P. Shucker.
There you go. Billy Little, P. Shucker. Billy Little, avenge me.
Billy Little will be my ICE contact.
There you go.
In case of emergency, call Billy Little Jr.
He's a Navy guy, too.
Yeah.
Call me Bill Little.
Just kidding.
That's what's
and
up.
on that note.
Just joking. No, I'm just really impressed because we started off by Billy Little Jr. and then you start hearing the story and you're like, damn, he did not fucking stop. That's pretty.
I'm just saying maybe he should go by William if he wants a little more legitimacy, is all I'm saying.
Bill.
Yeah?
Bill Little. Well, no, that's not good. Okay, I'm starting on Bill Little. That's not good.
Will Little? No, that's worse.
Bill Little.
We're making fun of his name and he's solving murders. What the fuck do we know about anything?
Shit. So,
Billy, and on that note, So that is the end of our train wreck show, unless anybody has any final thoughts.
Nah, I almost feel like I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could keep going on these. Yeah, these are pretty horrible. I don't know if they're on the level of when we were talking about those funky ways to die, but these are pretty trifling though.
Yeah, I think these being modern hurts a little bit more too, because this is all like within the last 10 years.
Is this something that, we should totally try to follow up on these?
Yeah. I've been watching the Alexis Sharkey case. If I see anything about that, I'll definitely, and the Jennifer Doulos now, because I'm pissed off about it. If I hear anything about any of these, I will update you guys for sure.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yes.
So taking us into our socials, Yardley, where can we find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at militant_marker.
Very nice. And Miss Christie?
I am Creepin' at Christie on Instagram and Creepin_it on Twitter and Creepin' at Christie on TikTok.
Very nice. I am at Moni Bear, MoniBarre. I have a TikTok as well. And also I wanted to invite each and every listener here. Creators Assemble, my little nonprofit, is doing a charity D&D game, 12 hours of D&D game with some famous creators, with some TTRPG players. It's going to be on our Twitch channel, which is Creators Assemble. We're the only Creators Assemble on Twitch. And it's going to be May 15th, and it's all day. So if you want to come hang out with us over there, we are going to be taking in donations to fund our projects and sustain our mission. But we hope to see you. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's also some really cool donations that we've received that we'll be doing giveaways throughout the day. And there'll be some fun commercials and music in between games. So there's a little something for everyone, but it's live. So come hang out with us May 15th. All freaking day over on the Creators Assemble Twitch. And again, I am available at Moni Bear across the board. And thank you so much for listening. We wouldn't be here without you. And we hope you had as much a little bit depressing fun as we've had today sharing this with you. Keep it real.
So you can get enough, 'cause it's my way, even if